I mean, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence testimony you're about to give in the matter now can be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Put your hand down. You state your name for the for the court reporter, and I'll spell your last name and what your position is with respect to this case.
My name is Phyllis Brooks, B-R-O-O-K-S. I'm the Elections Director for McDuffie County.
And one thing too, to also, do you guys, and I guess Mr. Sparks specifically, if McDuffie County produced a document pursuant to the Open Records Act, do you want me to authenticate those one by one, or will you agree that those are self-authenticated?
I think this is the appropriate witness to ask about McDuffie County productions. As you'll recall, we had a colloquy before the hearing about if you'll let us know which specific documents of the voluminous open records request you were seeking to stipulate authenticity and admissibility to. I'd be happy to take a look, but we haven't received any. So I think I would need to see what you're proposing to admit as a batch. I think it's likely in consultation with McDuffie County's counsel that
So,
we can arrange.
and I can go over those now. So it'll be the voter certificates produced by McDuffie. Do you have any objection to those? Because there's a decent amount.
And the same with redacted.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Are these all in the packet that colleague dropped with us before we started
Yeah,
today?
if you want to go over those are fine.
Mhm.
The numbered list of voters,
Mhm.
is the other number.
Thank you.
And that includes Mr. Tiller's voter certificate too, which we just talked about. The McDuffie County ballots, sample ballots.
That's the remainder of what you marked as plaintiff's for?
That's right. And here's the precincts. This is also produced. The emails, which are produced by McDuffie, which we can get you. Those I'll probably do one by one. Is there any position on those? The ones I've named so far?
I agree with your intention to introduce the emails one by one. I would not be in a position to stipulate those. Unless McDuffie County's counsel objects, and I see their bait stamp on at least 3 to 4 packets you've provided. No, as to authenticity, I believe you can offer those to the witness
Okay.
as a
And then
batch.
also the ballot activization proof report, which I handed that out in my opening. And that's plaintiff's exhibit. So I'll just read these. Plaintiff's exhibit 11, voter certificates from McDuffie. Plaintiff's exhibit 12, numbered list of voters. Plaintiff's exhibit 13 is the precincts. Plaintiff's exhibit 14, ballot activation proof report.
Is number 11 when you say the McDuffie voter certificates, are these only which voter certificates are these? There have been several groups of voters.
So
who talked about
these
that.
are, I think virtually all of these are McDuffie, other than the ones I've authenticated with Warren.
Okay, I understand they're all McDuffie, but what I'm asking, council, and I'm sorry if I haven't been clear, is this the group of McDuffie voters challenged in your amended petition? Is this the group of
Yes.
McDuffie certificates
Yes.
produced as a whole from the office, or is it the subset that we've been talking about since approximately 9:30 today?
This will be I mean, I don't know if it matters for self-authenticating. It was produced by the government agency, but these are the ones we're offering at the trial today. That is in this list.
Okay, and you're holding up the demonstrative from this morning.
Yes,
So that's less than the full set.
That's correct.
In the amended petition.
that's correct.
All right, I want to understand what you're asking me to agree to. Thank you. Yes, subject to McDuffie County's approval, I think it's fine to use each of these with this witness, with the exception of the emails as you covered before.
And no objection on behalf of McDuffie County except for the redaction.
Except what?
The redaction of copies of information.
For the sake of the record, Madam Court Reporter, I'll note that what Petitioner's Counsel is aiming to mark as Exhibit 11 are a stack of voter certificates. I can't tell the number right here, there's no base label. Number 12, numbered list of voters, starts with MC0007. What petitioner appears to wish to mark is 13. The precincts list is MC0156. And intended petitioner's 14 appears to be MC2112, the voter covers it. Then we'll see about the email suspects. Did I read that correctly, Mr. Evans?
I believe so, yes. And I'll go ahead and hand these to the witness too, just to get these out of the way. I think it'll be more efficient to do it this way. So Ms. Brooks, I'll hand you Claims Exhibit 11, which is the voter certificates. Claims Exhibit 12, which is the numbered list of voters for McDuffie County. Claims Exhibit 13, which is the precincts. And then Claims Exhibit 14, which is the activation report. And Your Honor, based upon agreement of counsel, I would tender those into the record.
Which ones are those?
Those are Exhibit 11, which is the voter certificates. 12, numbered list of voters for McDuffie County. Number 13 is the precincts for McDuffie County. 14 is the ballot activation proof report for McDuffie County.
Your Honor, subject to Mr. Evans linking these up in some way to his intended witness's testimony, no objection from Representative Jackson.
Very well.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you can subject to, they're in the record, and so we'll move forward.
Your Honor, I'll stand on what I've already said rather than drag this out.
But those are documents you're saying were produced by McDuffie County
That's exactly right, Judge.
and
Yeah.
result of discovery in this case.
Those were produced, yeah, pursuant to open record.
This witness is so the head of the department that those documents came from.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, Judge.
Precincts and those, is that back to back?
Yeah. Yeah, same document.
Okay.
Yeah, so we printed these back to back just for, to make it save some paper. But that is Exhibit 13. Okay. We are ready to go, Ms. Brooks. Thank you for your patience. It's easier to do it at the beginning than go through these one by one. Thank you very much. Would you please state your name for the record?
Phyllis Brooks.
And Ms. Brooks, what is your current role?
I'm the Elections Director for McDuffie County.
And what do you do in that role?
Oversee the elections process for the county, staff my office, recruit and train poll workers.
And how long have you been in that role?
I started in 1991 with the first Board of Elections. I've left a couple of times, I've retired, and I'm still here.
So how long have you been in your current role?
I returned in 2016,
As the superintendent?
yes, as the director.
And would you agree with me that the precinct lines in McDuffie County haven't changed since 2022?
Correct.
Would you agree with me that all of the White Oak precinct is in House District 128?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
Yeah, sorry about that. Would you agree with me that all of the White Oak precinct is in House District 128?
No,
What part of the White Oak precinct is not in House District 128?
anything outside of the city limits on White Oak Road.
And do you have,
If you're going from here, this is White Oak Street here, it turns into White Oak Road. It goes to the city limits, all inclusive in 128. When it crosses the bypass, the right-hand side is 125, the left-hand side is 128.
would you agree with me that all the Fort Creek precinct is in House District 128?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that all of the Deering precinct is in House District 125?
Yes.
What is a combo code?
It is a set of values that create a ballot that you would be eligible to vote for, or districts that you would be able to vote in.
And so does the combo code dictate what ballot a voter will receive?
Yes.
All right, I'll refer you to Petitioner's Exhibit 3, and this is the stipulation. You have that? No, you don't have that? It should be up there somewhere. It'll have a 3 on it.
Okay.
Okay. And do you recall, have you ever seen this document?
No.
I'll just represent you. This was a document that we worked with your attorney to come to agreement on, which established a number of issues, and it's easiest to just go through these one by one. I'm going to try to do it as efficiently as I can. Please understand, you have to prove my case, and that's what I'm doing, so bear with me. Did you identify individuals in the November 5th, 2024 election that were assigned to a district that they did not reside in?
Yes.
And how did you come to that conclusion?
And looking at the maps and, well, basically looking at the maps.
And what did the map say?
It showed that there was an area where, that's a little portion where we drew well, we didn't draw the line, but we took the line directly across that little triangle and included all of those people in 125 or in 120.
And I'll refer now to two types of individuals. Some are what I'll call outsiders, which are people that did not live in House District 128, but were assigned to 128 and got a ballot in 128. And then I'll call people, the other group of disenfranchised, which are people that should have been assigned to 128, should have been allowed to vote in 128, but did not get a ballot in 128. So how many outsiders did you identify in McDuffie?
I don't remember the number, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And that's the reason why we may have to go through this. Do you recall how many disenfranchised that you identified in McDuffie?
What do you mean by disenfranchised?
Sure. And by disenfranchised, I mean people that live in House District 128, but did not get a ballot for 128 because that they reside, because they were assigned combo codes outside of 128.
We identified 6 that received a 128 ballot, but we're in 125. I believe that's the way it is. I don't know without my.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and if there's anything to help you refresh your recollection, please let me know. We'll try to use this stipulation as a start.
Okay.
So the first is Miss Barnes. And Miss Barnes was an individual that resided in House District, or was assigned to House District 128, but lived in House District 125. Do you recall her?
I recall the roads or the streets that I see that you have on, yes.
And is your testimony today that Miss Barnes received the wrong ballot in the House District election in November 5th, 2024?
Yes.
And next, I'll refer to Mr. Barnes.
Jay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have a document that may help.
That would be very great.
I
Yeah.
figured it might.
Yeah.
Have a copy. Yeah. And then what's the judge do?
Okay, Ms. Brooks, your counsel gave me a document that may refresh your recollection and help us speed this up. And so I've marked this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15.
And Ron, if I may approach you, I can give you a copy as well.
And have you seen this document before, Ms. Brooks?
Yes.
And you may be able to, I'm still going to go through the stipulated list, but you may be able to reference that to help us move along. So next is on page 2 of the stipulation, Mr. Mark Clifford Barnes. And did you conclude that Mr. Barnes got the wrong ballot in the November 5th, 2024 election for House District?
Yes.
And how did you come to that conclusion?
He's in that group that lives in that little triangle that was misplaced or misassigned.
And so we'll go to page 2 here, and we've got Mr. William Brooks. And did you, and also Judge, we're going, these are all flowing in alphabetical order on my voter chart, page 2, if you want to go along. But Mr. William Jacob Brooks, did you conclude that Mr. Brooks received the wrong ballot for House District in the November 5th, 2024 election?
No, I did not.
And how did you not conclude that?
Per my records and Jarvis, he is assigned to the correct district and received the correct ballot.
And do you have any evidence, we'll strike that. Would you agree with me that the voter database for the November 5th, 2024 election indicated that Mr. William Brooks had a combo code for House District 128, and the voter certificate indicated that he had a combo code for House District 128?
I know that the information my office entered into Jarvis assigned him to District 125, and that's what he should have received.
Do you know what the absentee ballot file is?
The absentee voter report? Yes.
What is that?
It's a report that's found in ePulse.
And did you look at the absentee ballot file to see where Mr. William Brooks was registered to vote for the November 2024 election?
I did not look at it to see where he was registered to vote, no.
Would you agree with me that what the absentee ballot file indicated as of November 2024 would be a stronger piece of evidence to indicate what ballot someone received than a Jarvis report that was dated as late as January 10th, 2025?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative, and she just said she hasn't reviewed the file. I'm sorry, Mr. Dunaway, don't mean to step on.
Join the objection, Your Honor.
You guys say.
Would you agree with me that, let me make the question even more broad. Do you know what the numbered list of voters is that
Yes,
I just gave you? Did you look at the numbered list of voters, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 12, to see what combo code that each of these voters were assigned to?
I did not,
And why did you not do that?
because at the time I was trying to get all of this information printed and ready for you.
What is the numbered list of voters for McDuffie County, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit
It
12?
shows, the number list is just showing everyone who voted in the election.
Mhm. And if I told you that the numbered list of voters shows that each of these people in the stipulation, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 3, received the combo code with the wrong ballot, would you have any reason to disagree with that?
I've not looked at it, so I can't agree or disagree.
And based upon your experience as a superintendent, which you've been in for a long time, would you agree with me that there is no more accurate document to show the ballot that someone receives than a voter certificate?
It's supposed to be accurate.
Is that a yes?
Well, it's supposed to be accurate, but I don't have any control over that. That's from the Secretary of State's office.
The voter certificate you're saying is by the
The voter
Secretary of State's office?
certificate comes from information that's pulled from the Secretary of State's office to a third-party vendor and then downloaded to the poll pads. I don't see that information in that process, so I don't know if it's coming down correct or not.
Well, let's do this, which is let's go down the list. And your council represented a couple of 3 buckets. And then I'm going to dive down on any of the ones that are alleged to not receive the right ballot. It sounds like that is just about Jarvis, and then we're going to nail that down. So Mr. William Brooks, you said you did not confirm got the wrong ballot. Did you confirm that Mr. William Brooks, was assigned,
Check, I believe that mischaracterizes her testimony.
I think she said that he got the correct ballot. I thought that's what she said. Is that what you said, ma'am? What did you say? I don't want to put words in your mouth, don't want him to put words in your mouth.
I confirmed that the information that is in Jarvis has him assigned to 125, and that's the ballot he should have received or did receive. You're telling me he received something else.
When did you do that? What day did you confirm that?
When I first got the list of, from the Secretary of State that I had voters misassigned, and that was, I think, the day before Thanksgiving.
So that was not this year,
No,
it was in June 2024.
yes.
and when was the day before Thanksgiving?
27th, 26th?
It was Wednesday.
The November 26th?
Yes,
About-
the day before Thanksgiving,
And was that after the November 5th election, right?
yes.
Did you didn't ever see any document that showed November 5th or before any of these people assigned to the right combo code or received the right ballot, did you?
I only saw the list that was sent that said these people were misplaced, and I checked the Jarvis to see if I had them in the correct district, which I did.
And that wasn't done until November 26th.
Well, I had
Around
no
November
reason to do
26,
it before
2024.
then.
So, Mr. Brooks, do you agree with me that he was assigned to the wrong House district?
I agree, I had them assigned to 125, which is the correct House district.
So your stipulation says which House district, and you said 125, correct?
Yes, 125.
Okay. Did you look at the November absentee ballot file that was last modified on November 21st, 2024?
I haven't looked at any report individually, not any list, no.
Do you think that you should have looked at all of the voter files to confirm that any of these individuals received the correct ballot before reaching that conclusion?
I looked in Jarvis at each one and saw that I had them assigned correctly.
Would you agree with me that the voter database, absentee ballot file, number list of voters, voter certificates, cast vote records, November absentee ballot file as of last modified November 21st are important documents in concluding where someone is assigned to vote, what district they're assigned in, what combo code they receive, and what ballot they're going to receive?
If that information is correct,
Are you suggesting today that the voter database, absentee ballot file, number list of voters, voter certificate, cast voter records, November absentee ballot file last modified November 21st was incorrect?
I'm saying it's different from what I have in Jarvis for these voters on White Oak Road.
Could Jarvis have been changed after the November 5th, 2024 election?
Not in my office, no.
I'm not asking your office. I'm asking, could Jarvis and any of the data have been changed after the November 5th, 2024 election?
I don't know. I don't know what they can do in Atlanta with the database.
So, Mr. Brooks, you admit is in House District 125, right?
Yes,
And you admit that Mr. Brooks, in the November 5th, 2024 election, should have received a ballot in House District 125, right?
correct.
And you admit that Mr. Brooks cast a vote in the November 5th, 2024 general election, right?
Yes, he voted in that election.
Next we'll go to Ms. Brown. And did you conclude that Ms. Brown received the incorrect House District ballot?
No, I didn't conclude that. I'm not sure about Ms. Brown.
Did you conclude that Ms. Brown lived in House District 125?
I did not conclude that, no.
So your stipulation says Ms. Brown, which address is in 125?
Okay,
Do you agree with that?
that's what's printed, yes.
Okay. But your testimony as well, and you are the superintendent, so I want to make sure we're reflecting this right. So Ms. Brown, we agree, the address that she's registered to reside at is in House District 125, correct?
Yes.
Objection 1030 of the record, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Captain Sparks, Ms. Jackson. I believe Mr. Evans misspoke. Ms. Brooks is not the election superintendent for McDuffie County. She's the elections director. And I just want the record to be clear.
All right. Yes,
I'm sorry, there's something making really loud clicking sound.
I hear it as well.
And it's interfering with all of my equipment. Can I try to find out what it is? I'm sorry.
Yes, do we have a couple minutes for a comfort break?
sure.
Right.
Conference break, be back. Are all the lawyers back? Okay.
All right, Judge, and just as a matter of housekeeping, Exhibit 4, all the absentee ballots the sample absentee ballots for McDuffie, that's been admitted into the record. Is that right?
Say that now.
Yes. Exhibit 4, which is all the blank ballots for McDuffie, that's been admitted. Just
Is that
confirm.
right?
I think this is the appropriate time, and I wouldn't have any objection, but I think it was just page 3 when Judge Rachel was testifying. If I remember correctly.
So I would tender those, and if there's any objections to address those now.
You're tendering exactly what?
Exhibit 4, I believe, page 3. Well, for the record, all of Exhibit 4.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No objection.
Okay.
And then Exhibit 10, which is Kristen Tiller's voter certificate, just want to make sure that's tendered and admitted.
10,
Exhibit 10.
Just subject to redaction.
Okay.
And counsel, just to be clear, I had heard you say earlier that Mr. Tiller's certificate was also part of Exhibit 11. Is that accurate?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I just want to make sure.
okay.
Yep.
Y'all all on the same page?
And then the only other element is the CAS report, which this is received, and I just want to get this in the record. This is it. We would send this probably to the Madam Clerk. I have to get this digitally filed. But this was produced by McDuffie. I printed off a copy.
Court reporter says you don't want that. And I don't know who. That's between the clerk and the court reporter. Well, we're gonna try this case by the panel.
That's right. Just think, we don't have to do it now. I just wanted to bring it up. Think about it.
Now, what is that?
This is the CAS report. We printed off all of it to be careful, but, and Mr. Davis will probably be alluding to it or referencing it, but with Ms. Brooks on the stand, now's the time to bring it.
And what is it?
So this
You gotta
is,
speak English now.
Yeah.
I don't understand all these,
to what Mr.
people with
Davis,
gray hair don't understand
to what
what they
this
call it, anagram?
effectively is
what stuff that has 4 capital letters or 3 capital
Yeah.
letters. We don't,
An acronym.
acronym, we don't
Yeah.
understand those things.
it in essence shows who voted at what precinct
Okay,
and with what combo code.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So I can give this to you, Dave. Phil can send it to you if you want to take a look at it and see if you and Mr. Sparks have any objection.
And I would say, Your Honor, McDuffie County produced, I think, 20,000 pages of documents. If we produced it, it doesn't have a bank stamp on it. I can check and see, but I would anticipate the objection to it.
Yes, Phil, if you could,
You would be ahead in poundage.
yeah, if you could send it to Phil and see if they object. Okay, we're ready, Judge.
All right, go ahead. I
Okay.
will say this, that the witness very shyly said, we're not gonna finish this today, are we? I told him I didn't think so.
So Ms. Brooks, we're back, and I was just talking to your counsel, and I think a faster way to do this may be to use your sheet, which I'm happy to do, which we've marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 15. And we will start at the top here. And first, we'll start with Mr. L.C. McCord. And Mr. L.C. McCord, do you admit that Mr. McCord received the wrong ballot for House District in the November 5th, 2024 election?
Yes,
And do you admit that Mr. McCord was assigned to the wrong district
yes,
and received the wrong combo code
yes,
and voted in the November 5th election?
yes,
And Mr. Marcus McCord, I'll ask you similar questions. Do you admit that Mr. Marcus McCord received the wrong ballot
yes,
and was assigned to the wrong district
yes,
and had the wrong combo code
yes,
and voted in the November 5th election?
yes,
And Ms. Sandra McCord, do you admit Ms. Sandra McCord received the wrong ballot,
yes,
was assigned to the wrong district,
yes,
received the wrong combo code,
yes,
and voted in the November 5th election?
yes,
And for Mr. and Mrs. McCord, Ms. Sandra McCord, and Ms. Margaret, those are the four we just talked about, were those as a result of wrongful rejections or disenfranchisements?
they were misassigned.
And that misassignment caused them to not be able to vote in House District 128 when they should have.
Yes,
Okay. Next, let's talk about Mr. Tiller.
Excuse me just a minute. You're looking at, does yours have exhibit 15 on it, or what exhibit is
This
it?
is 15, Judge.
All right. I've got one that's the same, but it shouldn't be marked in the sense that it doesn't go into the record. It's just the one I'm using.
Yeah, what I'm getting in the record is Ms. Brooks' testimony.
Yeah, I understand that. But to perfect everything, I can make notes on this, but it won't go into.
That's correct. Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, and Ms. Phyllis, did you prepare this?
no, my attorney did.
Okay.
Together, we did together.
Okay. And is this a true and accurate depiction of what you and your attorney prepared together?
Yes,
And Your Honor, I would move to admit into evidence as a reflection of the document Ms. Brooks prepared that is helping facilitate the testimony today.
If it's admitted as a summary exhibit, Your Honor, no objection for Representative Jackson.
And Your Honor, the same, I did prepare it with input, but I have no objection, was going to tender it as a summary exhibit, so.
Okay.
And that's fair, Your Judge. I'm okay with that. So, Mr. Christian Tiller, do you admit that Mr. Christian Tiller received the wrong ballot?
yes,
And do you admit that Mr. Christian Tiller was assigned to the wrong district?
yes,
And do you admit Mr. Christian Tiller got the wrong combo code?
yes, because he apparently does not live in McDuffie County.
And do you admit that Mr. Christian Tiller voted in the November 2024 election?
Yes,
And Ms. Kimberly White, do you admit that Ms. White received the wrong ballot?
based on her address, yes,
And do you admit that Ms. White was assigned to the wrong district?
based on her address, yes,
And do you admit that Ms. White received the wrong combo code?
based on the address that we have her registered at, yes,
And do you admit Ms. White voted in the November 2024 election?
yes,
Okay, next we'll go to and I'm referencing Plaintiff's Exhibit 15, alleged district misassignment. Ms. Grace Elizabeth Barnes, do you admit Ms. Barnes?
So, excuse me, did you go say anything about Ms. Sharp?
I did, Judge, but let me be clear that I did. Ms. Sharp, do you admit that she received the wrong ballot?
yes,
Do you admit that she was assigned to the wrong district?
yes,
Do you admit that she received the wrong combo code?
Yes.
And do you admit that she voted in the November 2024 election?
Yes.
Okay. Next, let's go to Miss Grace Elizabeth Barnes. Do you admit Miss Barnes got the wrong ballot for House District in the November 2024 election?
Yes.
Do you admit that Miss Barnes was assigned to the wrong House District?
Yes.
Do you admit that Miss Barnes got the wrong combo code for House District?
Yes.
And do you admit Miss Barnes voted in the November 2024 election?
I'm not sure whether she voted or not. She's on the list.
Is there any reason that you would believe she did not vote?
No.
And Mr. Mark Clifford Barnes is next. Do you admit that Mr. Barnes got the wrong ballot for House District?
Yes.
And do you admit Mr. Barnes was assigned to the wrong House District?
Yes.
Do you admit Mr. Barnes received the wrong combo code?
Yes.
And do you admit Mr. Barnes voted in the November election?
Yes.
Ms. Martha Joan Brown, do you admit that Ms. Brown received the wrong ballot for House District?
Yes.
Do you admit Ms. Brown was assigned to the wrong House District?
Yes.
Do you admit Ms. Brown received the wrong combination code?
Yes.
And do you admit Ms. Brown voted in the November 2024 election?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel James Compton, do you admit Mr. Compton got the wrong ballot for House District?
Yes.
Do you admit Mr. Daniel Compton Brown was assigned to the wrong House District?
Yes. All these that are listed under this section, yes.
Okay. And what we can do is for the perfecting the record, I do want to read their names.
Okay.
But what I will do is I will read their names. And then I will ask you those same questions just to get it in the record. Okay?
Okay.
Let's finish Mr. Brown and then or Mr. Compton. So you admit Mr. Compton received the wrong ballot for House District.
Yes.
You admit Mr. Compton was assigned to the wrong House District.
Yes.
You admit Mr. Brown received the wrong combination code.
Yes.
And you admit Mr. Brown voted in the November 2024 election.
Miss Brown, yes.
Mr. Compton Brown, Daniel Compton. Yeah. So what I'm now going to do is read each of these, and then we will answer these questions collectively. We've got Benton James Crosby Jr., Vicky Smith Crosby, Teresa P. Ferguson, Donna M. Harris, Edgar Allen Harris, Wesley Allen Harris, Amy Beth Holloman, Kenneth Dwayne Holloman, David Pilgrim Sr., Tina Ellen Pilgrim, Connie Lee Sermons, James Edwards Sermons, James Edwards Sermons III. Do you admit that each of the individuals that I just read into the record received the wrong ballot for House District in the November 2024 election, were assigned to the wrong House District in the November 2024 election, had the wrong combo code in the November 2024 election, and voted in the November 2024 election?
Yes.
Okay, I'm next going to last, if you can flip to the final page for me. Ms. Sarah Camille Rogers. Did Ms. Rogers receive the wrong ballot for House District in the November 2024 election?
She did.
Was she assigned to the wrong House District in the November 2024 election?
Yes, because I found out that she lives in Columbia County.
And did she receive the wrong combo code for the November 2024 election?
Yes.
And did she vote in the November 2024 election?
Yes.
So that leaves us with the final group, and let me just tally up how many we have now. So that totals 24 that you admit received the wrong ballot, were assigned to the wrong district, received the wrong combo code, and voted in the general election in 24, right? 2024, right? No?
I have them assigned in 125 in Jarvis, and that's the district area.
Well, so the ones that we just went over and admitted to, I'm totaling those up to 24.
This group on White Oak Road is 24.
Well, there's 48 total, correct, on this document?
Correct.
Yeah, and so the ones we just went over that you admitted, I've counted total 24, and if you want to count it,
Okay.
yeah, feel free to.
Oh, okay, I just know this is 24 here.
So let's just, sorry, for the record, I have to put all this in the record, and I know it's tedious, and I apologize for that, but I have to do that. So if you want to count up, we've got 4 with the McCords and Miss Sharp. We've got 2 with Mr. Tiller and Miss White. That puts us at 6. Then we have 17 with the next bucket here. And then we have 1 Miss Rogers, which adds up to 24.
Correct.
So 24 you have admitted received the wrong ballot for House District in the November 24th election, were assigned to the wrong House District for November 2024 election, got the wrong combo code for November 2024 election, and voted in election. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So now we're down to the White Oak Road, which is 24 here. So we just talked about Mr. William Jacobs Brooks. How did you, let me do this. I'm going to read all these names again, and then we can go over a similar sequence, but I want to limit it down. For the sake of the record, we're down to just these ones. William Jacob Brooks, Abigail Taylor Castle, Tony Lee Duckworth, Aaron Matthew Graves, Misty Dine Hawkins, William L. Hawkins, Kelly Lee Hitt, Tony Hatcher Hitt, A. Bryant Hood, Elizabeth Joan Hood, Jeremy Bryant Hood, Mary Donna Hood, Mackenzie Aubrey Hood, Randy Jacobs, Brian Thomas Jones, Jennifer Angel Kent, Katrina Clemens Mace, Aaron Joseph Moore, Leon B. Newsom, Vicky D. Newsom, John David Swint, Leah Montana Wagness, Randall Eugene Wagness, Whitney Wagness, maybe those I'm going to regard as the White Oak 24. Did you conclude that the White Oak 24, the names I just read into the record, received the wrong ballot?
I concluded that I have them correct in Jarvis and District 125, and a 125 ballot is what they should have received.
And is the only basis that you have that the White Oak 24, the names I read into the record, received the correct ballot, what you saw in Jarvis?
Correct.
And what you saw in Jarvis was not accessed until November 26, on or around 2024, right?
When I got the list of challenged voters.
And was that on or around November 26,
Yes.
2024? And was that approximately 3 weeks after the November 5th election took place?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that the voter certificates, which are Petitioner's Exhibit 11, indicate that the White Oak 24 received the incorrect ballot? you want to look through them, feel free to.
It appears so, yes.
And would you agree with me, and you can take your time looking, but all of the White Oak 24 voter certificates indicated, strike that. Would you agree with me that all the White Oak 24, which is reflected on Petitioner's Exhibit 15, the voter certificates indicate they had a combo code of 132?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that all of the White Oak 24, which is reflected on Petitioner's Exhibit 15, do not live in House District 128?
That's correct. They're in 125.
And I'll refer you to Petitioner's Exhibit 4, which is the ballots from McDuffie County that have been admitted into evidence.
Not sure which one he's asking you about.
It's okay.
You got that? Petitioner's Exhibit 4.
Mhm.
And I'll refer you to the ballot that corresponds to the combo code 132, which is 2 pages from the back.
Okay.
And does the 132 ballot have the House District 128 election on it?
Yes.
And so does the voter certificate in combination with the sample ballot 132 show that all the White Oak 24 received a House District 28 race on their ballot?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that these individuals, the White Oak 24, do not reside in House District 128 and should not have received a ballot for House District 128?
Correct.
And you would agree with me that if they did receive a House District 128 ballot for the November 5th, 2024 election, that would be the wrong ballot?
Correct.
I'll now hand you Petitioner's Exhibit 16. Brooks, I just handed you Petitioner's Exhibit 16. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
And I don't, do we have an extra copy for the judge? No. Oh, here, the one's actually right here, Your Honor. And what is that document? Oh, did you not hear me? I'm sorry. What is that document, Ms. Brooks? Yeah, take your time reading it too. Yeah, yeah. What is that document?
It's a letter I received from the State Elections Director concerning flag voters.
And what brought about this email?
I'm not sure. I think I received an earlier email that there was potentially going to be a challenge to the election.
And does this email say that Ezra, well, strike that. What is Ezra?
It's a GIS tool that the state uses. It maps houses to districts.
And were you trained on how to use Ezra?
Yes.
And does this report reflect, as of December 3rd, what Ezra identified as potential House district misassignments?
Well, Blake had to send me the list because I was having trouble accessing the site, and so he sent me the list.
And I believe the second half is the list.
Yes.
And would you agree with me that all of the White Oak 25 are on this list, or 24, all the White Oak 24 and the additional voters you've admitted to are on this list?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that this list reflects what Jarvis says, as he says, when the report was pulled and the email was sent on December 3rd?
No, it does not.
And why do you say that?
Because it has, again, the White Oak 24 listed on here as being mapped to 128 when I have them in 125.
So this document, would you agree with me that this document reflects that the White Oak 24 were assigned to House District 128?
No, they were assigned, according to Esri, they're mapped to 128, but they're not. Esri says I have them in 128 when I know that they're in 125. And I have them in 125 in Jarvis.
So if you look at his email, he says Q is the district they're assigned to now. And their map districts are Z, A, and AB. Let's just look at Tony Duckworth, who was one of the White Oak 124.
Okay, wait, let me find them.
Who are you looking
Where
for?
is he?
And it's hard to do on
Who are
this.
you looking for?
Tony Duckworth.
He's about 2/3 of the way down the page. Well, 70% of the way down the page. About 15 or 20 up from the bottom.
And what House
Okay.
district does it say?
I have it now.
Yeah. What House district does it say Mr. Duckworth was assigned to?
It says he's mapped to 125 and that I have him assigned to 128.
And this shows, as this report was pulled from Jarvis, as of December 3rd, Mr. Duckworth was assigned to 128, correct?
No, Mr. Duckworth was assigned to 125.
I'm asking what this report
So
says.
that's what the report says, yes.
Okay, so you're saying that the report that Mr. Blake Evans, at the Elections Director, the Georgia Secretary of State, is wrong.
Yes, someone is.
And what evidence do you have, other than your testimony today, that this report pulled as of December 3rd, 2024, by Blake Evans at the Secretary of State's office is wrong?
We have the audit reports that will show any change that has been made to a voter's record, and it does not indicate since redistricting that his districts have changed.
So you have no written documents that say this report is wrong, is that correct? Other than the audit history. What I'm asking for is what document exists.
No, I don't have
that's
what the
public.
Secretary of State has.
And earlier I asked you this, but is your name, who is this email sent to?
Who was it sent to?
Mhm.
It's sent to Phyllis Brooks.
And is that you?
Yes,
And is this a true and accurate depiction of the email Mr. Evans sent with the attachment?
yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit petitioners exhibit 16, tender for evidence, admission of evidence.
She can testify to the email she received. That's her account. No objection on what.
Admitted.
I'll next hand you plaintiff's exhibit 17. I'm gonna approach Judge at that one. You recognize plaintiff's exhibit 17.
Yes.
And what is plaintiff's exhibit 17?
It is a letter from, an email from Blake Evans, informing me of, the list of voters that were flagged in Esri.
And is the email sent to you?
Yes,
And is this a true and accurate depiction of the letter that, or email was sent to you from the Secretary of State on November 27, 2024?
yes.
Your Honor, I would
I don't know what you're saying.
I have to just ask this to get it into evidence, that's all this is. So I would move tender this into evidence, Judge.
Is that the email you received?
Yes.
Okay, I admit it.
Okay, thank you, Judge. And could you please tell the judge what the email says?
It says, Phyllis, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to email you to let you know that I think it is very likely that there will be an election contest in State House District 128, and I think the focus of the contest will be McDuffie County redistricting. As you know, we have the Esri Quality Assurance tool that we used in 2022 and trained on in January of this year, and it directs 2024 webinars redistricting. We updated it frequently through July 1st, 2024 of this year. In looking at the tool, it appears that Esri flagged 93 voter records for review in McDuffie with potential mismatches with State House districts. It is possible that you may have reviewed these records and determined that the voters are correctly assigned in Jarvis. If so, I recommend that you gather all your evidence and research that you use throughout redistricting in the event the election contest occurs.
And what did you say in response?
I didn't say anything to him.
at the top of the email, there's something that says, I guess it's on me.
No, I forwarded that to I forwarded his email to my board members and to the county, administrator, and I said, I guess it's on me.
And what did you mean by, I guess it's on me?
I guess if there's anything wrong, at the end of the day, the person in charge is the one responsible. As the director, it's on me.
I'll next hand you plaintiff's exhibit 18. And
Which one is this?
this is 18. And do you recognize
Yes.
petitioner's exhibit 18? And what is that document?
It's an email I sent to Blake after having trouble trying to access the Esri tool and even working with the Esri staff to get back into the system. And I let him know that I was finally able to get in, and I asked him, how do I make it show me the house numbers as opposed to just where the house sits?
And what is the date of the email that you sent to Mr. Blake Evans?
December 12th.
And was December 12th the first time that you had access, Esri?
That was the first time I was able to get in, yes.
And so prior to December 12th, 2024, you had never accessed Esri, is that right?
No, that's not correct. That was from the time Blake sent me the email telling me or informing me about a possible contest. When I tried to get in Esri, I could not.
Had you ever done the Esri search to see if the house districts were correct prior to December 12th, 2024?
No, I had not.
And what did you mean by how do I make it show me the house numbers?
It only shows where the house is located. It was not showing me the house numbers.
And so prior to December 12th, 2024, you had never checked Esri for districts, and you also had never been able to see what the house numbers were.
I've been in Esri before. I just could not access it at this time, this particular time, and no, I could not see the house numbers.
Is petitioners, let me strike that. Where's my email? There it is. Petitioners Exhibit 18, who is that sent by?
What do you mean, it was sent by me to Blake?
And does that reflect a true and accurate depiction of the email that you sent to Blake and the email that he sent back to you as of December 12th, 2024?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would tender this into evidence.
No objection, Your
No
Honor.
objection. It's meeting.
Were you trained on how to use Esri prior to December 12th, 2024 to assess whether voters were assigned to the right district?
I was already trained. I wasn't trained in December, but yes, when we first started using the tool, it was a redistricting tool.
And earlier you testified you had not used it prior to, you had not used Esri to assess whether voters were assigned to the right district prior to December 2024. Why is that?
I had
Your
had
Honor,
no,
that's mischaracterizing earlier testimony.
I think she understood. I'm gonna let her answer. Yeah.
I had no need to until something was pointed out to me that I needed to check Esri. And at the time, I did not work from May until June due to a medical issue. And then when I came back, the day before the June election, I was still in some intensive speech, occupational, and physical therapy, so I was not at work full-time until almost early voting time. And so, no, I did not check it.
I'm sorry to hear that. So part of the reason why you didn't check it for the correct districts for voters is you had a
I
number of
was
health
not
issues.
there.
So, sorry, look, make sure to let me ask the question and then you answer so the record's clear. That way it's hard for the court reporter. But the answer was that you weren't there. Is that what you said?
Correct.
I'll now hand you Petitioner's Exhibit 19. Ms. Brooks, I just handed you Petitioner's Exhibit 19. Do you recognize that document?
Yes,
And what is that document?
it's a letter to my ballot builder.
And is that an email between yourself and Ms. Smallwood?
Yes,
And is it a true and accurate depiction of the email between yourself and Ms. Smallwood?
yes.
Your Honor, I would tender this in the evidence.
Hearing no objection to that, admit it.
No, Your Honor, don't believe so.
And in this email, we'll strike that. Who is Ms. Samantha Smallwood?
She's the ballot builder for McDuffie County.
And she works for the Secretary of State's office?
Yes.
And what is she emailing you about on July 1, 2024?
We were getting ready to put together the ballots for the next election. I'm not July. Again, I was gone and I don't really remember. I was trying to do some things from home.
And if you look at number 1, you say, I'd like you to look, she says, I'd like you to look at the combos and Jarvis. I'll be pulling other early August to verify any changes. The report holds the foundation to ensure correct contests, end up on the right ballot for voters. I do not know what your combo should be, so I need you to take your time and work with the support. If there's an issue with the support, please reach out to the systems. And there's bold below that. Is that you responding to her email?
Yes.
And what do you say in response below number 1?
Precinct 105 should have combo number 143 and oversight on my part at the May election.
And why does a White Oak 143 ballot exist?
Because there are 2 different school districts associated with that precinct and the 2 different house districts. And I only had one assigned to the White Oak precinct.
And you say an oversight on my part at the May election. What did you mean by that?
That means I did not realize that 143 was not assigned to 105.
And then in the next number 2, you say, I think I also mistakenly added it under maintain election. What did you mean by that?
That was the soil and water contest that I put in the wrong place when we were entering it in Jarvis.
When you received this email, did you think that you should use Esri to confirm the district?
Again, I was working from home and I did not have access to it. I was trying to work from home.
but you had been trained on the Jarvis system to confirm district assignments at this point, hadn't you?
Yes, Jarvis, yes.
I believe I tendered this, right? I now will hand you Petitioner's Exhibit 20. Ms. Brooks, I'm going to hand you Petitioner's Exhibit 20. And do you recognize this document?
I do.
And what is this document?
It's an email after I forwarded the original email from Blake to the county administrator.
And on Wednesday, November 27th, you emailed Mr. David Crawley. Who is Mr. Crawley?
The county administrator.
And what do you say to him?
I'm sorry?
And what did you say to Mr. Crawley?
He asked me, what does this mean? And I responded, he's saying I have 93 voters in the wrong district.
No,
and the
sorry, I'm
race-
talking about the November 27th at 4:34 p.m. I'm sorry, at the bottom of the page.
Okay, when I received the email from Blake, I forwarded it to the county attorney, as well as my board members. Then he emailed me back and asked me what's next.
Did you email him what's next?
Well, it looks like I did, but I don't know. I don't know what I would have meant by what's next.
And what does he say?
He asked, what does this mean?
And what did you say in response?
He's saying that I have 93 voters in the wrong district and the race will be contested because of that. But no one said anything was wrong earlier this year when we had the special for 125. So was it okay for Gary to get those votes if they were in the wrong district, but now it's not? They have to show me where the voters are.
So you, as of that email, you didn't know where the voters were, did you?
I did not.
What's the date of that email?
November 27th.
So anytime on or before November 27th, you did not know who the voters were or what Jarvis indicated they were assigned to, did you?
I did not know until they were sent to me by Blake.
And was that first done in Exhibit 16?
Yes.
And so no sooner than December 3rd, 2024, could you or did you look at Jarvis for any of the White Oak 24 or any of the voters generally, did you?
Correct.
So is Plaintiff's Exhibit 20 a true and accurate depiction of the email correspondence between yourself and Mr. Crawley?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to tender this as evidence.
20? Yes, it did.
20, thank you, Judge.
Oh, you hit?
No objection, Your Honor.
Let me ask you this. It said when we had a special for 125, what was that? What did you mean by that?
I think it was a runoff.
Oh, okay. You had had a primary up there in that district.
Right, and there were 3 and 1 pulled out. Yeah, that's what
So who
But
is
then he
Gary?
had to run again, for the seat.
And so who is Gary?
Gary Richardson, he's the 125 rep.
I pity him. I got my first name too. So. My mother's favorite actor was Gary Cooper, so that's why I got it.
Would you agree with me that at a minimum, there is conflicting evidence on the White Oak 24 and what ballot they received?
Yes,
And would you agree with me that nothing aside from Jarvis, which you did not access any earlier than December 3rd, 2024, indicated that the White Oak 25 received the proper ballot?
correct,
And would you agree with me that the voter certificates show that the White Oak 24 received the wrong ballot?
correct,
And would you agree with me that the voter database indicated that the White Oak 24 received the wrong ballot?
correct,
Would you agree with me that the numbered list of voters from McDuffie County indicated that the White Oak 24 received the wrong ballot?
correct,
Would you agree with me that the cast vote records showed that the White Oak 24 received the wrong ballot?
correct,
And would you agree with me that the November absentee ballot file, last modified as of November 21st, showed the White Oak 24 received the wrong ballot?
correct,
And by wrong ballot, for each of those, I mean the wrong ballot for House District. Does that change any of your testimony?
right,
Given that all of those certified voter documents, the voter database, absentee ballot file, numbered list of voters, voter certificate, cast vote records, November absentee ballot file that was the last modified on November 21st show that the White Oak 24 received the wrong House District ballot in the November 2024 election, do you agree with me that they did in fact receive the wrong ballot in the House District race?
I agree with you that those things that you just stated say one thing, and what I have in Jarvis is another.
But the thing that you have in Jarvis was not accessed until December 3rd or later, right?
Correct,
And that Jarvis file could have been changed after December 3rd by the Secretary of State or someone else, could it have happened?
someone other than my office and my staff.
But that does not show that the White Oak 24 did not get the wrong ballot, does it?
No,
No further questions, Judge. I reserve the right to redirect.
I want to make sure I understand. What he's referring to is the White Oak 24. Is that little triangle thing you were talking about a while ago?
no, this is a different group.
This is a different thing, okay. All right, just want to make sure.
Good afternoon, Ms. Phyllis. These items that you just identified, that Mr. Evans described, I believe you acknowledged, say different information, that these White Oak 24 received about, I apologize, for these items that Mr. Evans just identified that show that the 24, the White Oak 24, received a ballot for 128. Who was those documents all prepared by?
The electors list is prepared by the Secretary of State.
And who prepares the ballot certificates? Where do those come from?
Those are printed by the poll pad.
And where is that information on the poll pads? Where does that come from?
It's uploaded from Jarvis to No Ink and downloaded to the poll pads from No Ink.
And who is responsible for that process?
The Secretary of State.
Ms. Phyllis, if you would, if you still have them in front of you, can you look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 17? This was the email at the top, November 27th at 4:32 p.m.
I have
Do
it.
you have that? And I believe you mentioned, who were those recipients that you sent that email to?
My board members, the Board of Elections.
And can you read off those names for me of who they are?
Billy Walker, Julia Bird Barr, Ron Shipman, Anita Cummins, and Louis Smith.
And those are your board members?
Yes.
If I can, I'd like to direct you to Plaintiff's Exhibit number 16. That's the email from Mr. Blake Evans dated December 3rd of 2024.
Okay.
Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
And do you have the list that was attached to that?
Yes.
If you would, looking at that list, if you look down about 1, 2, 3, 4 names, you see Shipman,
Yes.
and what is that name?
Charlotte Anita,
And what is that address?
588 Stagecoach Road.
And if you will, continuing over, what column did you have that property as mapped as?
I have it in 125.
And if you will continue on, what did the Secretary of State say that that property should have been according to Ezra?
128.
And again, this is a list that you received on December 3rd from the Secretary of State.
Yes.
All right, if you will go on to the second page, excuse me, I apologize. If you look down to about halfway, do you see where Shipman is listed again?
Yes.
All right, and do you see, is that the same address as what
Yes,
you
it
have
is.
for Ms. Charlotte Shipman?
Yes.
And if you continue on to the right, what house district do you see that you had for Ms. Naomi Shipman?
125.
And if you continue on, what did the Secretary of State have?
128.
All right, and if you will flip to the second page, and if you look about halfway down, do you see the other Shipman?
I do.
And who was that?
Ronald,
And what address?
588 Stagecoach Road.
The same as the other two shipments that we looked at?
Yes.
Who is this Ronald Shipman?
He's one of my board members.
One of your Board of Elections members?
Yes.
And looking at him, what district did you have him in?
125,
And what district did the Secretary of State say that he should be in?
128.
Now, are you familiar with where Mr. Shipman, your Board of Elections member, lives?
I am.
Okay. And do you know where his property is in relation to the district lines for 125 and 128?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what district is his property?
125.
And are these other two shipments, are those his family?
Yes.
Okay, that's, I'm assuming his wife and daughter, is that
His
correct?
wife and niece.
Niece, okay. So, now, Ms. Phyllis, I understand the Shipmans are not challenged in this elections contest. But they were included in the list that the Secretary of State provided to you that indicated that they were, according to Esri, mapped wrong by you. Is that correct?
Correct.
As we sit here today, did you have your Board of Elections member in the correct district?
Yes.
So this was wrong as far as the shipments go.
Yes.
Now, did you investigate the others on this list?
I did.
And what did you determine from this list?
I found that all of the White Oak Road, with the exception of one, I have mapped correctly, and they're incorrect on here. The ones we're not disputing, Neals Mill Road, Washington Drive, Adams Chapel Road, I do have incorrect.
Well, and let's back up. How did you actually investigate these?
I looked each one up in Jarvis, and then I compared it to the maps.
So where did you look to determine which district these were in? Was that the map?
I looked in Jarvis first at their voter record to see where I had them assigned.
Okay, but as far as the locations for these, did you look at the
I
map?
looked at the maps, yes.
So how many was it that you found on White Oak Road on this list from your review of the maps that you had correct?
32,
And the Secretary of State had those 32 incorrect.
correct.
Did you find any other roads that were similar to
The
that?
Stagecoach Road, 26 of them were correct. I think that's how many are on here.
So, and when you say that they're correct,
They're
you mean-
correct with what I have in Jarvis.
So you had all the Stagecoach roads, which include the shipments, you
Yes.
had correct, and the Secretary of State had incorrect.
Yes,
Now, I believe you testified you reviewed this list as soon as you received it.
yes.
And so your testimony is out of this list of 93 that the Secretary of State provided you, how many was the Secretary of State wrong about and you were correct?
26 plus 32, 58.
Okay, so over half of what the Secretary of State said 30 days after the election were flagged as incorrect. The Secretary of State was actually wrong about.
Yes,
And that included your Board of Elections member in this panel.
yes.
So is it safe to say that the Secretary of State's records throughout this haven't exactly been accurate?
That's correct.
Ms. Phyllis, earlier when you were testifying about these White Oak 24 properties, your testimony that all 24 of them are located in House District 125?
Correct.
And your testimony that according to your information, which is Jarvis, that all 24 of them were mapped and received a ballot for House District 125?
Correct.
So you would agree that if they were in 125 and your records show that they received a ballot for 125, according to Jarvis, they received the correct ballot?
Yes.
Ms. Phyllis, I believe it was Plaintiff's Exhibit 15. Do you have that in front of you? That is the list of the properties.
I don't have a 15. Okay, so I'm sorry. I have,
You have that? If I could, I'd like to direct you to the first page, to Mr. Christian Elvin Tiller at 3174 Cedar Rock Road. I know that from the stipulation that you entered into, that you identified that that was his address at which he was registered.
yes.
I believe earlier you had testified that he had received the incorrect ballot. Do you know what ballot he should have received?
In McDuffie County, he would have received a 125 ballot.
Okay. Are you aware of a 3174 Cedar Rock Road existing in McDuffie County?
I've tried to find it, but I don't.
And if you will, looking at the next one, Ms. Kimberly Eric White, listed as 310 Howard Road. Were you able to investigate that property
Yes.
and that voter?
Yes,
And were you able to determine where 310 Howard Road is located?
there is no 310 Howard Road.
Okay. If there was a 310 Howard Road, were you able to determine what district it would be in?
It would be in 125.
And I also believe earlier you had testified regarding Miss Sarah Camille Rogers on the last page at 4001 White Oak Road. And that stipulation there indicated that she lives in Columbia County.
Yes,
Do you know which district that address in Columbia County would be?
125.
Your Honor, I think that's all the questions I have. But reserve the right to call Ms. Phyllis on his application chief.
All right, anybody? Any other questions?
Not at this time, Your Honor, for saying bring us, Mr. Conlon.
Anything further?
Just a couple redirect, Judge. Earlier you testified, Ms. Brooks, and I'm almost done.
You can speak up.
Sorry about that. Hey, we need like a megaphone here. Earlier you testified that the poll pads are pulled from Jarvis, right?
No ink pulls from Jarvis. I'm just assuming that's the way it works, because no ink gets the information, they download it to the poll pads.
And so no ink pulls directly from Jarvis, which then goes to the voter certificate, right?
Yes,
And then that dictates which key card you get to then get a ballot vote, right?
correct.
So you would agree with me that there is no way the poll pad and Jarvis could be inconsistent, could they?
They aren't apparently communicating correctly together.
So you would agree with me that when the voter certificates were generated, when all of these voters voted, that information would have been pulled directly from Jarvis, right?
That's what I believe, I'm not sure.
And so, given that sequence, and the voter certificate indicated all these voters that we're talking about, the White Oak 24 and each of the ones on Plaintiff's Exhibit 25, received the wrong combo code, that would indicate Jarvis, at the time these people voted, also indicated they had the wrong combo code and were assigned to the wrong district. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that means that when you pull Jarvis after December 3rd, that does not indicate that these voters received the wrong ballot when they voted, does it?
What do you mean when I pulled from after the election?
So, because as you just testified, no leak pulls directly from Jarvis, which generates a voter certificate and gives you the key card. Jarvis, when these individuals voted and got their voter certificate, had to be consistent with what the voter certificate indicated when these people voted, right?
The lists are printed from No Ink's data, not from Jarvis.
Do you understand my question?
Obviously not.
Okay. So when no leak pulls from Jarvis to make the voter certificate, that then gives you the card that you put in to get your ballot casted, that means that the voter certificate through no link pulled from Jarvis, what is reflected on the voter certificate that resulted in these people getting their ballots, right?
Yes.
So when they got their voter certificate pulled through no link from Jarvis, that means Jarvis, when the voter certificate was generated, had to say what the voter certificate said, didn't it?
If it's correct. But my data, what I have in Jarvis for these voters is not the same thing that's printed on Jarvis's list.
And when did you pull that information?
When we started this.
No sooner than December 3rd, 2024, right?
Right.
Other than what you pulled on December 3rd, 2024, you have no evidence to suggest any of these voters received a ballot that's different than the voter certificate, CAS file, absentee ballot file, electors list.
No, I don't.
Okay. So earlier you asked about the shipments into the list the Secretary of State sent. We're not questioning, Ms. Wheeler and the petitioner's not questioning the shipments, are they?
No.
And almost all of the voters that petitioners alleging was assigned to the wrong district, you've stipulated to, right?
Yes.
And so while the Secretary of State's Jarvis list, or not Jarvis list, Esrae list may have been accurate, our list is not accurate, is it? Our list is not inaccurate, is it, as to district list assignments?
This list,
That's correct. Petitioners, Exhibit 15, and what's reflected on it.
no, it's correct, that's what we stipulated to.
And Esrae is not a voter, the Esrae report that was generated attached to petitioner Exhibit 16, that's just an estimate to take a look at, isn't it?
Yes,
This is not a voter record, is it?
no,
And so a suggestion that the Esrae estimation report is not the equivalent of a voter file that's certified, is it?
no,
So this petition Exhibit 16 doesn't in any way suggest or contradict any voter file generated by the Secretary of State, does it?
well, it has voters mapped to one district when they're in another district.
That's correct, but this is just an estimate, right, for you to take a look at.
Yes,
Judge, nothing further.
I got a question. Maybe a serious one. I'm trying to remember how, when I go vote. All right, I go in there, they ask me my name.
take your ID.
They check my ID. And then they give me, something,
Card,
a card. Now, what is that card?
that's the card you take to the machine that pulls up the ballot, you're eligible to vote.
Okay. From what, when I tell them my name and I show my
Scan
ID,
your ID.
then they get some information as to tell them which card to give me, or what to be on my card.
Right. When they scan your ID, it pulls up your information,
Okay.
and then they create your card based on that information that comes up on the screen for you to go vote.
Where does that information on the screen come from?
It comes from No Ink, which is a vendor that the state uses that downloads it to the poll pad.
Then I go in there and I stick at least the card, the way it is in the county where I vote, put it in the machine, and then your ballot comes up on the screen. And you mark your ballot like you want to, and then it gives you the chance to check your ballot.
Right.
And then when you
And you print it.
decide that's where you want it, you hit cast ballot.
And it prints.
And then they print up something. It's a sheet, I can't read it, the whole thing. But you take it out there to another machine and they scan it, and that's what. So those voter certificates, what is a voter certificate? Is that,
I call it a receipt, they call it a voter certificate.
Yeah.
This is, it's what the poll pad prints after you sign the screen,
Right.
that you sign the oath, that this is your true and accurate information, and it creates a list, if you would, of everyone who's voted, and what combo they got, what ballot they received.
what combo?
Right.
Okay.
Your Honor, I do have just a few
All right,
follow-up questions. Ms. Phyllis, are you involved in this process at all that you described where No Ink downloads the information, uploads the information and then downloads it to the poll pad?
No, I'm not.
And is that an instantaneous or is that something that occurs over a few days, that process?
They upload from Jarvis or whatever database, and then within a couple of days, it's usually the Saturday before Election Day, it's downloaded to the poll pads.
And I want to make sure regarding this stipulation that the record is clear. You stipulated to the locations of various properties, or the McDuffie County Board did, but not to whether any of those received the incorrect ballot. Is that
Correct.
correct? So if you testified that any of the White Oak 24, you'd stipulated, or any of the others received the wrong ballot, that would have been incorrect.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
I just want to clarify that last answer. That last answer only applies to the White Oak 24, right? About the wrong ballot for the White Oak 24?
Yes.
Yeah, because we went over one by one each of the ones, many of which, around 24, you admitted they received the wrong ballot, correct? Okay. Nothing further, Judge. And the next would be Mr. Davis. He's going to have to set up. I know we've been going to probably about 2 hours, hour and a half. I would propose a quick restroom break.
I got a question for you. It says I am requesting a nonpartisan ballot. What does that mean?
It's just in November, the ballot is nonpartisan, no vote by party.
I understand. It's really not. Nonpartisan is what judges run on. It's the general election, I'm not fussing at you, it's terminology that the state uses. It's a general election as opposed to primary ballots, which are partisan. And everybody should get, if there's a judge race on there, that's a nonpartisan ballot. Right?
Right.
Okay, not your fault, not your fault. It's just somewhat misleading. You're not required to vote by party in the general election, but you get to vote either a Democrat or a Republican or whoever else is on the ballot. And then on the judge's side, you get to vote nonpartisan, whatever. Okey dokey. Anything further from this witness?
Your Honor, I reserve the right to recall her in my case in chief.
Okay, does she need to hang around? Can she go?
She can go for now, she can stick around.
All right, don't discuss your testimony with anybody else, but you are free to go. Stay on call.